See if I'm reading it right.
They said they're not getting
Let's go ahead and get started. Jim's here. Don't forget to turn your phones off. We'll go ahead and call the roll.
Bell. Curran.
Here.
Freeling. Harrison.
Here.
Hinkleman.
Here.
Majerick.
Here.
Ott.
Here.
Pittsburgh.
Here.
Walrath.
Here.
Werfel. Yarborough. Elliott.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have 9 present, 3 absent.
Thank you.
Oh, wait. You got
4.
you got
Yeah.
8 present, 4 absent.
Is Mamie here?
Sorry.
Anybody know? Okay. All right. Well, let's approve the minutes from last week. Anybody want to do that?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, moved by Majerick, supported by Volrath. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Requisition review.
Good morning. I received one inquiry from Commissioner Werfel with regard to the purchase order, change order. Her question was, do they have the funding and where is it coming from? I responded that it is coming from the child care fund and that currently, yes, they do have the funds in their budget to allow that to go through. Does anybody have any other questions regarding the requisitions? Thank you.
Thank you. According to the agenda, we need to pause this meeting and go into a public hearing to discuss some natural resources trust fund grant applications. We have a couple folks here who are going to tell us all about that. Ms. Adams and Mr. Fetty.
It's 2 different public areas.
Yes, understood. My question is, corporate counsel, can we move into one public hearing and then the other, or do we have to do the first public hearing, come back into open session and then vote to go into the second public hearing?
I think we need to close and then open again.
Okay, all right. Well, who wants to go first? Dan? Okay. Is that the Lakeview Trail?
Yeah.
All right. Is there a motion to pause our meeting, go into a public hearing to review the Lakeview Trail Natural Resources Trust Fund grant application moved by Harrison, supported by Volrath, sorry. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Curran.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
Hinkleman. Majerick.
Yes.
Ott. Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Walrath.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 8 yeas.
Thank you. Okay, we are now in the public hearing. Dan, tell us what's going on.
Morning, everyone. I know I've presented on this project probably, this is like maybe the 3rd or 4th time in the last few months. This is the Lakeview Trail project. This is the bike trail, pedestrian trail. It's going to run from the Harbor Shores project around Higman Hill all the way up to the Whirlpool headquarters at Monty Road. I was down here, I think, 3 weeks ago discussing some of the funding structure on how this trail is going to be constructed, to include a grant from the Whirlpool Foundation for $400,000, what's called an MDOT TAP grant, a Transportation Alternative Program grant to the tune of about $1.6 million. That grant application has already been submitted and pending review. And the final component to complete the funding structure for this is a $300,000 request from the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund. I know I've discussed this in the past many, many times. In order to submit the application for the trust fund grant, which is due April 1st, we have to hold a public hearing where the project is presented to the public and then concerns or questions from the public can be accepted and addressed. So today on your consent agenda, you have a resolution authorizing our department to submit an application for that trust fund grant. This is the public hearing that has to precede the approval of that. So let me see if I can get this to work. All right. There we go. Yeah, you've seen this many times before. This is just a truncated version of a prior presentation that I've made, but you know that Whirlpool Foundation, Harbor Shores, Whirlpool Corporation, and Cornerstone Alliance sent a letter to Chairman Elliott last year requesting that the county participate in this project and assist with acquiring the funding necessary to build the project. We have been endeavoring to accomplish that since then. The project itself, again, is this non-motorized trail that would run, essentially from the border, the north shore, or the border of the northern part of the Harbor Shores project, all the way up to Monty Road, connecting the trail system of Harbor Shores to the mountain biking trail constructed by Whirlpool on their campus that many of you have visited. Again, this is essentially what it's going to look like. It's a 10 to 12-foot wide asphalt path running within the right-of-way of M63. That right-of-way is an MDOT right-of-way, so we're negotiating with MDOT for the allowances to construct within that. And again, part of the project here that we are continuing to work on is the negotiation of a maintenance program consistent with the requirements of the county's trail maintenance policy. The proposal here, to reiterate or remind everyone, is that Harbor Shores, Whirlpool Corporation is going to donate a portion of their property along their campus into what's called the Harbor Shores Community Public Asset Fund, the CPAF. It's a 501c3 that is essentially a holding company for real estate. That real estate will then come off the tax rolls. The taxes that otherwise would have been paid on the real estate will be diverted into an endowment fund, probably held by Whirlpool Foundation or Berrien Community Foundation. We haven't determined that yet at this point, but that fund will grow over time. And as trail maintenance is necessary, either the county itself or a contractor employed by the county can draw off that fund to make the necessary repairs and improvements to the trail, which we anticipate to be somewhere around $10,000 annually, maybe $15,000 maximum, depending on how the winters go. This is what's been accomplished already to date. Again, you've seen this. The trail study was completed. The design has been completed. There's been improvements to the system of the Harbor Shores Golf Course, open to the public. Those trails are. There's been the creation of the mountain biking trail up at Whirlpool. The underground tunnel that will link the east side of Whirlpool's campus to the west side of Whirlpool's campus underneath M63 is an ongoing project right now, being paid for exclusively by Whirlpool. The donation of the real estate for public purposes is ongoing. We haven't fully accomplished that yet, but that's an ongoing process. We've engaged grant writers to help us secure the grants for this project. We've secured the seed funds for the maintenance, about $300,000. We've also secured a commitment for additional maintenance funds to be deposited in that account over the next 20 years. And we expect that'll be about $500,000 by the time those deposits are completed. Again, this is what's more or less just indicated where we stand on this. The tunnel is under construction. It's going to be completed here shortly. The TAP grant has been resubmitted with the match from the Whirlpool Foundation for $400,000. We expect that application to be, if approved, we expect the approval to come sometime maybe in June or July of this year for construction in 2025. Final step is to submit this trust fund application by April 1st. If successful, we should know by September of this year, with construction slated to begin sometime in late 2024. This is the resolution that you have today on your consent calendar authorizing us to submit this application. It provides for the local fund or the local match funding, which would be the TAP grant and the Whirlpool Foundation grant. I should reiterate, if we're unsuccessful in getting the TAP grant, we're going to know that before the MDNR trust fund grant is reviewed. If we don't get the TAP grant, we will withdraw our application and resubmit at a later time because it's predicated on us having this money available as a match. So one kind of stacks upon the other, so to speak. So again, this is basically what we've been asked to do by the participants in this project. And we're at the point now where we've basically accomplished the submission of funding requests, and then throughout the summer and into the fall, as those requests are reviewed, we'll determine how to actually layer this up and begin the construction sometime in 2024-25.
Hey, Dan.
Yes.
It appears that the second phase of mountain bike trail development is underway. It appears that the tunnel project is moving along.
Yeah.
Is it right to say roughly Memorial Day for the opening of the additional trail and the tunnel?
I'm not sure about that, and I wouldn't want to commit anything publicly. I can certainly contact Whirlpool and Avonmarsh and ask how the construction's going and get an update to the commissioners. I think generally, the idea was they wanted this completed by Memorial Day, so that it didn't impact traffic coming north and south. I think that's the goal, but I can certainly get an update on construction from them.
And then a follow-up question. So for the admin committee, you spent a lot of time working on the trail policy. So Dan, is it a correct assumption that if this MNRTF funding is approved, that we would then work with the development to ensure that it's fully compliant with our trail policy?
Yeah, and it will be compliant. The design is compliant with the trail policy and the proposed maintenance structure is compliant with the policy that's been adopted by this board. The whole notion, of course, is that, you know, we've made ourselves available as a public entity to secure the funds for the construction of trails that can only be done through a public entity, with the predicate that the county is not going to be putting its own money into the maintenance of these trail systems. There has to be some alternative maintenance program put in place. So in a sense, we're being asked to be a conduit for funding, but not have responsibility to pay for the trail maintenance over the next 20 years. There has to be an alternative available. In this case, there is.
Questions, comments?
I'm around the horseshoe for now. Any comments from the assembled multitude here this morning? No?
I like the idea.
Okay, thank you. Just for the record, tell us your name and where you're from. Okay, thank you.
I think that's a great idea.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything to say about it? Okay.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And if there's still no comment around here, motion to go back into regular session. Moved by Harrison, supported by Volrath. We need a roll call on that, I believe.
Yes. Harrison,
Yes.
Hinkleman, Majerick,
Yes.
Ott,
Yes.
Pitchford,
Yes.
Walrath,
Yes.
Curran,
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 8 yeas.
All right, we are back in regular session. Since that public hearing was so much fun, why don't we do it again? Public session, how for a recreation passport grant application, and it's moved by Harrison, supported by Volrath. Will the clerk please call the roll again?
Hinkleman.
Yes.
Majerick.
Yes.
Ott,
Yes.
Pitchford,
Yes.
Walrath,
Yes.
Curran,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 8 yeas.
Thank you. We are adjourned for the moment from our regular board session. We are back in the public hearing mode, and we are going to hear from Jill Adams about the Michigan Recreation Passport Grant application.
Thank you. This is a resolution that
Hey,
ends.
Jill, can you turn your mic on?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Resolution that ends with 164 for the Michigan Natural Resources Recreation Passport Grant. Dan helped. He got it. So real quick, the Recreation Passport Grant from the DNR emphasizes the renovation and fixing of old and aging facilities. So this project that we've chosen for this fits right in. The projects can be between 7,500 and up to 150,000 in grant award. So it's a little smaller than the trust fund grant that Dan just spoke about. It requires a 25% match, and it's funded through the passport, recreation passport passes that you buy when you renew your registration for your vehicles. Some of that money goes into local grant funding. The project that we would like to tackle with the grant funds is the replacement of the river shelter at Madeline Bertrand County Park, as well as improvements to the surrounding of the shelter. So this is an outline of Madeline Bertrand County Park without the new property that we just purchased as of last Thursday. So just for reference here on this map, at the south border of the park is Indiana, and the west side of the park runs the St. Joseph River. So the river shelter is one of 3 rental pavilions at this park. Since COVID, it's become more popular as people are looking for outdoor venues for their gatherings. So we've seen an increase in rentals at this pavilion. It's a little bit off the beaten path. We have a hard surface walkway that leads to it, but it's just a little bit kind of hidden. It's a hidden gem there at that park. Here's a picture of the current pavilion. This pavilion is used for a rest area for day hikers. It's also a great lookout point overlooking the St. Joseph River. It is like I said, a popular rental pavilion for family gatherings, birthday parties, and those kinds of things. And then in the winter, because of the fireplace, it's a warming shelter for ski and winter hikers. The goal of this project is to replace this wooden structure. It's 38 years old. It's definitely in disrepair. There have been repairs made over the years, but it's to a point where we do need to demolish and replace. We will also be working on the fencing that runs along the bluff overlooking the river. And we'd like to replace that with something that's safer and essentially better looking. We'd like to try to salvage the fireplace if possible. There's some history there and it's very popular warming shelter, and we'd like to keep that amenity in place. The sidewalks, as you can see, are in disrepair and need to be replaced. And then we'd like to add some landscaping. So those are the project goals. And this project, replacement of the river shelter, is currently listed in our Park and Rec 5-year plan. I just got a few photos of the current shelter and some of the issues that we're facing. Weather and wildlife have taken their toll on this structure. This is just one example of one of the beams in one area that is in disrepair. The fireplace itself is actually older than the shelter. Repairs have been made. And like I said, would like to salvage some of this in our project if possible, and make it safe and make it usable again. It's a very popular pavilion. We still do use it, so we would like to keep those amenities in place, make them better. It's very peaceful there. It's a very nice place just to kind of get away right off the beaten path. Very attractive views, and we would like the shelter to reflect that. I mentioned fencing. We'd like to replace it with something that's beautiful. It doesn't obstruct the views, but also provides safety for the visitors.
Hey, Jill?
Yeah.
Do you have a rough estimate on anticipated cost?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Just one more picture and then I'll get to that. This is the sidewalk leading up to it, and we will be replacing some of the trip hazards and other issues that we're facing there. So this, out of the different ideas that our parks team has been looking into, this is just one of the examples of an open air shelter that we possibly could install there. It would include some picnic tables underneath. We would like to provide the same size or slightly larger if possible than what's currently there. The project will cost approximately $200,000 total with all of those aspects included, which would be $150,000 of grant funds if awarded and $50,000 from the Parks and Recreation budget. And so in this public hearing, I welcome questions. I will provide more information if needed, but.
Shokely.
With this grant, is there a point system like the Spark grant was, or some of the other things that we got that has to total up based on what you're applying for? There
is, yes. It's very, very similar to the trust fund, a lot of similarities to the Spark grant as well. So there's definitely a point system. We usually get an initial point review back before the final awards are given, and we have the opportunity to increase those points if we can make some changes to our application.
Just as a follow-up to that, just so that everyone's on the same page, it's not a fast process. So if the board is desirous to move forward, Jill's going to submit prior to April 1st. She'll get her initial review sometime in the summer. She'll have an opportunity to update or clarify to see if additional points are awarded. MNRTF, the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund Board, won't meet until late fall. At that time, they'll put together a list of the recommended projects, and that's everything from the MNRTF fund to the Rec Passport Fund and on. From that late fall decision, it then has to move to the legislature for consideration of funding. So if everything is flowing smoothly, typically you would see in early part of 2024, the legislature take action. It then moves to the governor's desk for signing. So assume about a year from now, you would know whether or not the funding's approved.
Another question?
Just one follow-up to what Brian said. So do we have a timeline of how long it would take to construct this, knowing that it might be a year out before we know if you even get awarded?
Well, over the years, through these types of grants projects, it varies. Some projects take a couple of years, but this project is pretty straightforward. We've already been working and reaching out to a number of the companies that provide these types of pavilions. So once we get the funding and all the construction, the architect and design in place, depending on how things are going with construction at that time, the project itself shouldn't take very long. But we would likely put this $50,000 out of the parks budget. There's potential it could be in the 2024 budget, but it also could be in the 2025 parks budget to complete this.
Anyone else?
Just a,
John?
real quickly, it looks to me, I guess in the presentation that you gave, and I'm sure the Parks Board has looked this all over and they're in lockstep with you, but it looked like that venue back there was one that was for smaller, quaint type get-togethers. This one looks like something that's more for a venue, like a group of people. So my question is, are the type of people, the type of groups that enjoy this shelter back here, are they, I mean, you said you'd like to keep some of the fireplace components, and I don't know if it's ever utilized, or, I mean, is this different than the way it's being utilized now, or is it, because the venue, they're two very different things, it looks like, right now?
Right. We'd like to try to keep a similar footprint size, so it would be a smaller venue. It's the furthest pavilion from the restroom facilities, so it is the last one to get rented. Usually the other two fill up because they're close to the amenities, close to the parking lot. This isn't far from the parking lot, but you can't necessarily pull a vehicle up close by. So we would like a similar footprint, similar vibe, meaning it's in the woods, it's a little more small, it's intimate, it's more natural. So we would like the pavilion to reflect that natural setting. It just, at this point, that pavilion is pretty innate, it's pretty unique, and it would be very expensive to try to renovate that current facility.
So I understand. I just thought that maybe in the construction, it would have a different look than this, something that included the fireplace. I didn't know, but I'm sure if the Parks Department's looked at it, it's fine. It looks different than the venue that you had, and you know, and I didn't know if there was going to be a component of that in there. So
with the fireplace, most likely the fireplace wouldn't be able to be integrated into the new structure. There would have to be some space between. If we're able to salvage that fireplace, there may be a fireplace setting, and this would be next to it versus built in like the current one.
okay. I know this isn't public hearing, but I'm sorry about the statue. So
Thank you.
I don't know what you do about the statue, but and that's for another time. But I'm sorry about the statue. So
Thank you.
Crazy. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Just one follow-up question. When this is purchased, the pavilion itself, is it one unit they're going to build for us for one set price, or do they bill in how much it's going to cost for the materials to build that? And could that change over the next year with the price of inflation, all these different things that are happening?
Certainly that could happen. The Parks team and the previous Parks Director, Brian Bailey, have been looking into options. There are kits that are available, and those kits can be specialized depending on what we want. So we would likely start with a kit like this and customize it enough to fit into that space. So it certainly could change, and especially with that time frame that this grant requires before it's awarded.
Anyone else? Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments?
Well, Rick Rion, Niles Township. My family and I use that park a lot, and I have the park stamp, so knowing that the money that I spend on my park stamp is going for something that benefits all of us locally, that makes me feel better about buying that stamp. That way I don't have to drive far away to use it. And that there's also a Frisbee golf course out there that's becoming very, very popular. A lot of people use that. So if that pavilion it'd be a good investment, in my opinion. I think that's something that South County would really benefit from. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard?
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Before you close the public hearing, I think it's worth noting that Jill just reached a major accomplishment as the director of the Parks Department. So over the last week, she closed on her first property purchase on behalf of the Parks Department. This is something that years of work went into, and just a major accomplishment. So I think it's just worth noting that Jill officially gets a pat on the back for really, really good work. Nice job.
All right. Thank you, Jill. Is there a motion to wrap this up? Moved by Harrison, supported by Volrath. All in favor of going back into our regular session? Let's start a roll call, Madam Clerk.
Majerick,
Yes.
Ott,
Still yes.
Pitchford,
Yes.
Walrath,
Okay, yes.
Curran,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Hinkleton, Elliott.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 8 yeas.
Thank you. We are now back in our regular session, and we're at the point on the agenda where we get public comments. Anyone have anything? Name and town, name and town.
I'm Melissa Clapper, St. Joseph Charter Township. Kudos to everybody that worked on everything that was presented this morning. Agree with Rick, it's nice to see our tax dollars and our license plate funds go to something that is really good. So all great is that. The only thing that I will put on my wish list is that thanks to all the people that are, supporting this with funding and support and everything else. I wish we could find that kind of enthusiasm, support to increase our public transportation within Berrien County to reach more people. So, kudos for that, but wish we could find that same enthusiasm for that. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard? Other business? Anybody have any? Okay, we're going to break early for committees. I see the director of the Public Defender's Office is here for an appointment with admin. And got a little bit of time to kill between now and when you start, but we're done till 10:30.